So for me, I have a good chunk of Bitcoin that I'm basically never going to sell, right? That's gonna just sit in there. It's obviously going to have its run-ups, it's gonna have its crashes, but at the end of the day, over a 20, 30-year period, it's always gonna keep going on. I don't know if you want to talk a bit about what happened with Trump coin, but that's
We can.
a great
You want to talk
example.
about Trump coin?
Yeah,
I'm down.
That was like
That was amazing.
well, that was one of the easiest plays you could have in all of crypto, I think, because it was so obvious, right?
Like if you're up 100%, sell 50% of the position, you've taken your capital out, the capital remainder, it's free money. You're able to, if it goes 100x, fantastic, and if it goes to zero, fantastic. You're pretty much risking money for free when you make this, right? Like I do that with options a lot. I like it. You know, it's beautiful.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Scotch Stocks. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the crypto market sentiment. Are we bullish or bearish? What are we looking for in the near future, and how we plan to trade the crypto markets going forward to hopefully try to make you some money. So pay attention and watch the whole episode. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Here's my friend Adrian Larreal, the big crypto investor that knows the market and has been making money with cryptos since the start of crypto, you know what I mean? Since the start of Bitcoin, who the fuck knows at this point? But
13.
welcome since
Thank you,
2013. Welcome. So we want to hear from you. We want to get an idea of what's happening in this crypto market. We want to understand, are we meant to be bullish? Are we meant to be bearish? Are we meant to trade this? Are we meant to just buy and hold? What is happening right now? What do you see in the crypto markets?
All right, sure. Let's get it started. Let's see. Can I share my screen?
Yeah,
some
for sure.
charts first. All right, let's go ahead
It's all
and
about
share.
them charts.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people kind of take into account all these news and whatnot. For me, it's mostly the charts, the price action, and then from there, I kind of look at some news that could be catalysts. But at the end of the day, price don't lie. Yeah, let's just start talking about when you talk crypto, right? Bitcoin is the big daddy.
And the granddaddy of them all.
It drives the market, right? So let's take a step back and see where we are, right? And where we've been since basically, let's say the past 3-4 months, right? So going back to last year, most of 2024, we had that rally in early in March, right? That where we hit that new all-time high, 73,000. And after that, we see that we had this descending wedge essentially. But for the most part, we were in this channel, right? Trading between 53,000 and 70,000 essentially, right? Up until November, right? We had a run up here in that anticipation of the election. And everybody obviously was looking at Trump being the pro-crypto candidate. And when that happened, we saw that pump, right? So we went from early November to mid-December, up 50, 59, 60%. All right, it's a pretty big move for crypto, especially now that it's such a big asset class. So with that,
So we're talking about what, $1 trillion worth of market cap.
I think it's a close to 2 trillion.
Yeah, it's close to 2, right? So we're talking even a little bit more, probably like 1, 2.
Exactly.
Which is a massive move, It's rivaling the likes of Nvidia at that point,
Yeah, I think it's number 6 in top 10 assets by market cap
in the world. Yes.
Right. So we have that little background, right, on where we came from, right? Right now we're trading at 96,000. Ever since the new year, right? Actually going back to November, once we broke above 90K, we still have been trading in this range, right? Between 110 to 90,000, basically a $20,000 range. Obviously, once things start pumping, that's when I started getting text messages and calls from people. hey, is this a good time to invest in crypto? What should I buy? How do I buy? So that's now it's getting a little bit more attention in mainstream media. People that are not normally looking at the crypto markets are reaching out and asking, should I buy that? That's kind of, I don't want to say a top indication, but that's an indication that the market is kind of overheated. And we see that here, right? Look at the RSI in the overbought region. But what has been positive for Bitcoin in general is this consolidation period, right? You don't go straight up, right? Once you have a 60% increase in price over 2 months, you need to slow down, let the market breathe a little bit, consolidate. And that's what we've been doing here for the past, essentially since January, right? And again, that $20,000 time frame. Now, I want to introduce also the concept of cycles, right? If you follow on Twitter or X, Bob Lucas, he's kind of the strong proponent of this 60-day cycle theory within Bitcoin. But essentially, the whole concept is that Bitcoin trades in 60-day cycle, right? Essentially 2 months. And you can have either a left translated cycle or a right translated cycle. A right translated cycle is usually bullish, meaning that you see most of the upward movement in price towards the second half of that 60-day cycle. A left translated cycle is essentially a failed cycle where you see a pump early in the cycle, but then for the other half of the cycle, it really doesn't do that much. It doesn't break new all-time highs. So timing these cycles, we essentially ended our cycle or last cycle here in January, right? We had the pump all the way to 108,000, which if you subscribe to our Telegram group, I actually called it at 107, but 108 is not too far off. So we took some profits here. And that was the peak of the cycle, right? And then we saw the cycle bottom here, end of December, right? And then that was the start of the new 60-day cycle. So this arrow represents that. So right now we are on day 40 of that 60-day cycle, right? And again, we've been trading nothing bearish, nothing crazy here, pretty standard consolidation period on the 60-day cycle. I also want to point out some of these trend lines that we've followed. I drew these long before we had this price action. And for the most part, they've been holding up relatively well, right? We had some wicks under them and so on. But again, the point here is we're in this channel. So what does that mean? That means that we probably need to wait another 2-3 weeks for the cycle to play its course, get a new bottom. We're probably going to get another drop into this area right here, maybe to the lower 90s, potential even lower. We might get a wick even to the 80s. I've been saying mid 80s for a while too in our group. 85,000 was my initial target for this bottom. It didn't get there. All right, but we don't always get them all right all the time. But yeah, that's definitely a possibility where Bitcoin will drop to $85,000, even 80,000, right? A wick under 70 into the 70s, I wouldn't be too concerned. If we drop below that, like if we hit 60,000, I'll be very concerned, and it's probably that means that was the peak, right? 109 here was the peak. I think that's likely. That is very unlikely, but it is a possibility nonetheless. I think the most probable scenario is we go back down, retest this area here around 90,000, and then at the end of the month, we continue our pump. But that's just a little bit on Bitcoin right now and where it's going. Bitcoin dictates the trajectory of the market. So it's important to understand where Bitcoin is going, where it's been, and what it's doing to understand the larger market. But I'll pause there. See, do you have any comments on that?
Well, so now, so now my question, because I like to I like to look at, obviously, like Bitcoin is a little bit more tricky because you're not able to see, like, have an earnings call where all of a sudden you understand what sort of revenues and what sort of value really the company has created throughout the last 3 months, right? So it becomes very difficult for me as like a stock trader to kind of go into crypto and say, okay, this is the way that I look at it, at the asset. But I do pay attention a lot to news, right? And as I understand, like, both this cycle and the news seem to, because I think you agree that it's like they both go hand in hand, right? I think you believe that it's more price action. I'm in the side where I believe the news is a little bit more important depending on how we see it. But in this case, right, like the reason Bitcoin has had the rally is because of Trump, right? It's the idea that Trump is pro crypto. He got backed by the crypto degens, right? Got into office because a lot of money was donated, and there's sort of expectations, and some of those expectations are the Bitcoin treasury, potentially the United States opening up the doors at the floodgates to start investing themselves. But not only that, creating the perception to the rest of the world that, hey, crypto is something that you can actually rely on and sort of like pay attention to. So those are the news that I'm paying attention to. And it's obviously like I'm still waiting for Trump to kind of even mention crypto. He still hasn't fully acknowledged the idea of it. Like he talked about the fund,
Investment
the
fund. Yeah.
yeah, the investment
The
fund,
sovereign investment. Yeah.
correct, the sovereign investment fund. That's what I meant. And it's interesting, right? Because he could make Bitcoin part of that fund, right? And like at the start of the year, we had at the start of last year, we got the Bitcoin ETFs, and that started creating a lot of hype because all of a sudden, all of the money that was sitting in tax benefit accounts, all of a sudden managed to move into actually a crypto asset that was able to boom and copy the Bitcoin. So I've seen all of this like sort of like slow moving pieces coming into the market, creating this like hype and demand, not only from retail investors, but from hedge fund managers, from the big banks, BlackRock, even, like all of the big players, right? So all of a sudden we're getting a lot of interest in the asset class. A lot of people are starting to, and that's just driving up demand, right? So in my book, it's kind of like, okay, what's next, right? So the idea was if countries start buying this as a reserve, all of a sudden you have new players. Now, I'm a little bit worried because the biggest buyer right now is Michael Saylor. He just keeps on buying and throw money at the money. But what happens when that money dries out, right? Which could create the sort of downturn that you were talking about, potentially going down to the 60s, if all of a sudden there's no more buyers left, right? Because somebody else has to come in and buy this asset or potentially hold it to levels where people are willing to put in the money. So that's what I'm paying attention to. I still don't have full dates. And my question to you would be, do you have any particular points or catalysts that you're looking at right now? Like what is the next catalyst for Bitcoin, you think?
I think that sovereign wealth fund is definitely a catalyst. I think the Trump's administration buying Bitcoin has partially, if not completely, been priced in, right? That's kind of why we saw this bump into the inauguration with the expectation that he's going to announce something with Bitcoin very early into his 4-year term, right? That didn't happen, right? But we did have that rally going into that. And then when that didn't happen, what we've had is basically a decline, a consistent decline over the past 2-3 weeks. I think the next catalyst would be, and the way in which Trump administration will buy Bitcoin is through that sovereign wealth fund, right? Because if you start looking at the news and what's being reported, what's being announced, it's not just Bitcoin, it's also just crypto assets. So that wording is very important. And we already know that Trump's team have announced, hey, we might not even be looking at just Bitcoin. We might be even looking at US-based cryptocurrencies. So that includes things like XRP, Solana, and so on. That's where I'm thinking, okay, first you need to establish the method in which the government is able to buy these assets, right? And then you need to specify, okay, what's the allocation within that sovereign fund, right? Because it's easier to pass, okay, look, we're going to allocate this many millions of dollars, billions of dollars to buying assets to establish this sovereign wealth fund, which includes Bitcoin and other US-based cryptocurrencies, as opposed to saying, hey, we're going to allocate, millions of dollars to just buy Bitcoin outright. So I think that's an easier sell. I think at the end of the day, probably Congress will have to do something here to enable that. So there's some laws and a process that needs to go through that. But yeah,
so it's a little bit of a sort of smaller process, like a longer term process. So we're talking potentially a year, 2 years from now before we see any buying, or?
I mean, if you look at Polymarket, right, and we look at the we'll create national reserve in the first 100 days, right? So look at it all the way
Come
up
down
to
drastically.
40%, 50-50 into the inauguration. When he didn't announce anything, it basically came all the way down. Now it's at 12 cents, which is essentially 12% probability that in the next, maybe it hasn't even been a month with Trump in office. So what, we have like 70 days left, something like that. So that's a 12%. I agree with this. I don't think that's going to happen in the next 100 days. Possibly it'll be this year, but realistically, 2026, end of 2025 is really where we can start seeing realistically the federal government buying Bitcoin. Now, what else has been going on? We've seen states that have introduced legislation to establish a Bitcoin reserve. I think it's the numbers up to maybe 10, 11 states already. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah, now that's interesting too, because they're going to try to front run the Federal Reserve, the federal government buying. So that could happen quicker. I think that could actually get implemented faster.
Right. So these are the states that have either introduced some legislation or in the process or considering even. So you can see there a good portion of the states. I mean, it's growing. It's 20 states are at least considering establishing a Bitcoin reserve fund. Not only that, but there have been other countries that have also considered doing the same, right? Obviously, like I said before, there's a bunch of different processes that has to go through, and a country announcing that they're considering.
Tape, for sure.
So while that's a catalyst, at the end of the day, Bitcoin, within the history of Bitcoin, we also see this 4-year cycles, right? You have the halving, then you have kind of a year where it's kind of going up, but not the mania phase. And then the last year of that cycle is the mania phase, right? Where it just goes crazy. During this time, alts go crazy as well. But in the history of Bitcoin, we have not seen a Bitcoin bull cycle within an environment where interest rates are as high as they are today, and they're still quantitative tight, right? So the Fed is basically sucking money from the markets, right? And there's not as much liquidity as in previous years. So what happens there has been more of an accumulation of Bitcoin, because within the crypto universe, that is seen as the least risky crypto asset, as opposed to other alts, Ethereum, Solana, and so on. Obviously, you're going to have some altcoins that are going to outperform, but when you look at the market in aggregate, altcoins have underperformed Bitcoin by far.
Yeah, it's interesting. I heard a couple of influencers talk about about how people make money on crypto. It's like you buy a little bit of Bitcoin, then you grab that little bit of Bitcoin, like a portion of that little bit of Bitcoin, and then you go into altcoins. You try to make some money. You make some, you lose some. You make some, you lose some. You end up losing it all, and then the little bit of Bitcoin that you bought 10 years later is 10 times what it was, including all the losses anyway. So it's like just make it easy, buy Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Sort of play. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and the other potential side of this, okay. So for Bitcoin alone, in this case, it's like, okay, like what are you doing right now? What are the trades that you're looking at in the near future? Now going forward, what's the plan for you in the next coming month?
So let's talk, before we go to that, let's talk a bit more about how I kind of manage my portfolio and the structure, right? So for me, I have a good chunk of Bitcoin that I'm basically never going to sell, right? That's kind of just sitting there. I mean, maybe if Bitcoin goes through $500,000 this cycle, I'll probably sell it. So never say never. But there's a good portion of there that I'm not going to sell. That's just letting it ride, kind of savings in Bitcoin, right? With the assumption Bitcoin is always going to go up. It's obviously going to have its run-ups. It's going to have its crashes. But at the end of the day, over a 20, 30-year period, it's always going to keep going on. So it's the same thing as just having money into S&P 500's ETF and just leaving it there, right? Now, there's another portion of Bitcoin that I do trade, and it's more of a kind of swing trades, right? So I play the 60-day cycles, right? So like I mentioned, I sold some here, 108. Then I sold some here as well when we hit 109 as well, right? And then I bought some. I bought some back. So while we were in kind of the Bitcoin only upturn, which you could argue we're still in that period, I was basically just using that short-term Bitcoin to trade those cycles. It's a smaller percentage of my overall trading portfolio because I don't want to be in the business of being left behind, because I'm trying to exactly time the bottom and time the tops of those 60-day cycles, because what could happen is, you think it's going to go lower and it doesn't, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I thought this was going to go to 85. So if I sold everything here at 108 and I waited for it to hit 85, then I got left behind and I wasn't able to take advantage of this because I didn't have that big, right? So, and then obviously there's another bucket, which is kind of the riskier bucket, much smaller. Maybe it's about 10, 15%, where it's altcoins, including Ethereum, right? But that's kind of okay. Every crash that we see in alts, that's my bucket of money to go in and buy alts. So that's I had that reserve of cash for most of 2024. I bought, there was a few dips in alts, so I was buying throughout the year. And that, for the most part, has been deployed. And I still have some reserves there because I do expect at least one more downturn in both Bitcoin and alts to take advantage of that. But that's just kind of like a little bit of background on how that portfolio is being managed.
Can I ask a little bit of detail? And it's okay if you don't want to give it to me, but what's sort of the breakdown? So you said long-term Bitcoin position, it's what percentage of your portfolio? Like, let's just say in your whole crypto allocation.
No, that's about 20 to 30%.
Okay.
Long term.
Okay. So 20 to 30%, and then your savings. So I'm assuming the remainder is somewhere in the savings. So 45 to 55% is in the trading.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, 45. Okay, perfect. Okay, just to have an idea. Cool. Okay, so you move your portfolio, because I'm more, so whenever you look at my stock portfolio and like the way that I trade and do everything, it's like I have 90% of my assets in long-term stocks. Long-term stocks, ETFs, breakdown of such, like very high conviction companies that the chances of them going bankrupt is like zero.
Right.
And then
your Nvidia,
I have like
Tesla's, Apple's, yeah.
Correct. And then 10 to 15% of my portfolio is actively traded. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, it's like, and then obviously, like, even because most of my crypto is held in Bitcoin in the long-term portfolio with like ETFs now and all that stuff too. So it's like,
well, now to clarify, right, that 46%, it's got allocated for me to be able to trade, but most of my trades are not that size.
Okay,
right?
okay, of course.
So within that sub portfolio or that allocation within that portfolio, I'm not trading the whole like 50% over here and then buying it back. I might do like
it's just
10%, 15, 20% of that 50%.
And if it keeps dipping, potentially another 5, another 10, and increase that position based on the current market sentiment, market moves, and all of the data combined. Okay, I get you. Perfect. That's cool. That's very cool.
One of the biggest lessons I've learned trading, especially in crypto, is you always want to be able to have a position to take advantage of a move up and a move down. And you're never going to get the top right. You're never going to get the bottom right. So you need to be able to have that flexibility that if it goes up by a lot and it feels like it's overheated, you can sell a good chunk of it and still have some left to ride it up if it does indeed keep going up. But also on the flip side, if it goes down, right, and it dips, buy the dip. But then what happens if it keeps dipping and buy the dip again? And what happens if it keeps dipping? So yeah, you need to have enough reserve to be able to keep buying the dip and then buy them with more and more conviction if it does in fact go lower.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay. Yeah. Because that's one thing I wanted to say. It's like a lot of people in crypto, they sort of that to the moon mentality, but I'm not going to take a pit stop. I'm just going to get there without ever stopping ever. So it's like sometimes it's okay to take profits and just wait for the market cycles to come in, take advantage, build up your cash reserves, and then re-enter. You can always re-enter higher,
yeah.
but re-entering lower is also good. It's also nice,
Yeah, and the thing with that
Key
is
point.
you gotta find things that you can do. You gotta maximize your profits by leveraging as many financial assets as you can. Right. So even with that, let's say you have, I don't know, $50,000, and that's kind of like, okay, that's a bit of reserves there, but that money is not really generating anything. Like if it's a savings account, you're generating some interest, but you're getting what, 4 or 5%.
Barely.
Robinhood, I think, pays you like 5 point something percent, 5.5. Right. But you could actually take that money and buy like a stock, something that's less volatile and uncorrelated to crypto. Right. And you can do things like selling cover calls, right, to hedge that and squeeze a little bit more profit from those holdings while they still can be used as reserves.
So I get you. So you're trying to sort of generate cash flow in your portfolio through different products, different strategies.
Exactly.
Okay. We definitely have to do an episode on those. Like, like a quick episode on like just, okay, if you have this amount of Bitcoin or in this Bitcoin ETF and you sell, you want to sell at 110 and your target is 110, well, sell options, like call options a little bit higher. If it hits, great. If it doesn't, you keep the premium. So It's also great. Yeah. Okay. But that's an episode for sure that we have to get into the lines. Okay, cool. Perfect. Okay. We've talked about the granddaddy of things. Beautiful. I think this is going to be one video, one episode, just Bitcoin in itself, just to break it down a little bit. Now I want to know Ethereum, right? Because I know that the big trade that you have on your books right now in front of your desk is Ethereum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again,
right
just
now
like
it's sitting pretty.
Just like we did with Bitcoin, let's do a quick recap of the price movement of Ethereum. So last year moved all the way up to 4,000, but Ethereum seems to be completely allergic to the 4,000 level. Every time it hits there, it just keeps climbing back up. Some people say third time's the charm. I guess we'll see. We hit it one, twice, and now we're trading towards the bottom of this range, right? So just like Bitcoin had that consolidation range, Ethereum had a similar range, right? Basically going between 4,000 and, well, actually we hit 2,100 both times, right? We hit it right here back in August 2024, and then most recently this past week we hit 21. Even though it was a very brief wick, right? If you were able to catch that, I was watching the markets as that was going on, and I was having a conversation. I was in a car having a conversation with somebody. And I looked away for like 2 minutes. I looked back down. And I saw, okay, it just went down to 2,100, and now it's back up to 25. So very quick wicks. But if you were able to catch it, props on that. But we see that Ethereum is on the dollar valuations trading close to its bottom, close to the bottom of this range, right? But really what you want to look at, because we established Bitcoin as the king of crypto. And you can look at Ethereum as the prince of crypto. So if you have, let's take a look at Ethereum BTC, right? Because why would you hold something that's riskier than Bitcoin if it's not generating more profits than Bitcoin itself, right? So let's look at what Ethereum has done compared to Bitcoin. So this, what we're looking at, is a price action of ETH compared to its using its Bitcoin valuation. All right. So we can see this horrible, right? This like a huge downturn all the way from August of 2022, just consistently going down, right? It's just perfect, this channel that has been going down on, right? It just keeps getting rejected by the moving averages. Every time it gets close to the top of this channel, it just keeps going down. Right now, we're here towards the bottom of this channel, this long-term consolidation. Now, two things to point out. Every time we hit this trend line, what happens? We bounce back up. We trade above it, we get close to it, bounce back up. We get close to it, we bounce back up. Now, maybe we're breaking it down, right? But historic, if we look back, I might use the weekly chart for this one so we can appreciate where we are. When in doubt, zoom out, right? And what we can see is that Ethereum, it actually has these cycles versus Bitcoin, right? It likes to kind of stay within this range as well, right? I mean, I'm going to ignore kind of that week there. That's Ethereum being very new to the market, right? But if you look at it, you're within this range. Now, the range, obviously, sometimes it doesn't reach all the way up to the previous one. So you might argue that there's diminishing returns there when you compare it to Bitcoin. But we are historically at very low Ethereum valuations when compared to Bitcoin, right? I'm not calling a bottom per se, but if this is not the bottom, or, what we had this past week was not the bottom, we are very close to it. So this is one of my biggest plays, right? Because every cycle, there's the same narrative where Ethereum has not increased in value compared to Bitcoin. It is that you have the flipping, right? Solana's got to take it over, right? It's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. And really, it's just fear, right? When there's fear in the streets, you want to be greedy. So that's what I've been doing. I've been buying ETH since around the 0.5 valuation. So some of my ETH has gone down like 20%, right? And even if it goes down another 20, 30%, right? 50%, I'm okay with that. I'm willing to stomach that because I have conviction in that trade. Because what are we looking at? What happens if, from here, let's say it goes back to where it was in 2022 or even 2023, right? We're looking at a 200% increase from now, right? And that's against the value of Bitcoin. Historically, when ETH goes up to these higher valuations, it happens when Bitcoin is also increasing in value in US dollars, right? So while you might be looking at ETH right now at 2,600, right? Everything else remaining the same. Let's say Bitcoin stays at 96,000, right? Ethereum could move double that and be at this range. So that means it'll be over $5,000, assuming Bitcoin stays at 96,000. Obviously, Bitcoin is not going to stay at 96,000 if Ethereum is making those moves, right? We might get 120, 130, 150, 160. Maybe we push close to 200,000 Bitcoin. So what does that mean? That will be what? More than a 50% increase in Bitcoin price right now. So that will push ETH close to like 6,000, 7,000, if not more than that. So there, you're essentially doubling your Bitcoin amount. And because you're also doing that during a bull cycle, you're increasing your US dollar amount as well, right? At the end of the day, you have to be able to take profits. But that's a whole nother discussion. But the opportunity, as we can see here, is there to capture this potential 200% move, right? It could even go higher than that, right? If it goes back to these levels, although I don't think that's that realistic. I think a good kind of target to set is around this area here at the 0.07.
Okay. So you're expecting to break out of this channel?
Yeah.
Okay,
like
but
that.
would you take profits at the top of the channel?
I would start taking profits right around here, maybe at the 0.06 level, because we can see here there's some good what served previously as support. This is probably gonna serve as resistance later on, right? So I'll probably start taking some profits there, and then all my profits would probably be in this area between 0.0 and 0.08.
Because that's the thing. Okay, so then we go back to the news narrative, right? So Ethereum, interestingly enough, has not had the same euphoria that Bitcoin had when we had the ETFs approved, right? Ethereum does have ETFs approved now, and it's full force. So what other things do you see? What other news or catalysts do you see coming into Ethereum? Like any advances on the technology, any new projects? Because I remember the last rally that we had was because of the NFT craze, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I think Solana has kind of taken that thunder away from Ethereum a little bit. I mean, it's easier to work with. It's cheaper, transaction fees. It seems to be more popular. All the meme coin casino, it's all Solana based, right? So it has taken some of that. And that's where we start seeing those diminishing returns. I think Ethereum, what it's being used for is more like the more legit uses, like governments or organizations, that type of corporate technology that's being built on that blockchain. Obviously, there's some technology issues there that it's blockchain. It's always going to continue to improve. But at the end of the day, it's solid chain, right? It has a good track record. The team has a good track record behind it. It's been the silver to Bitcoin's gold for the longest time since it's been around, right? And I don't think it's going anywhere. Just like any asset, it's going to have its bear cycles and its bull cycles. But we identify that and try to take advantage of it as much as we can. Now, a couple of things that do impact Ethereum and impact other alts as well. So one is around so as part of the merge, the ETH merge, right? Ethereum went to be a deflationary currency, right, for a bit. Now that has kind of flipped. I think this past week, the total ETH supply was at the same level that it was when the merge happened, right? So it kind of just flipped that over. So that narrative is kind of gone, right? But the other thing that impacts Ethereum and other alts will be macroeconomics, right? So we talk about the cost of capital. Interest rates are historically high, right, compared to other crypto bull markets. Also, like I mentioned before, the government's still sucking up cash liquidity from the markets. So before we can see ETH really rally, we need to have at least the government, the Fed stop sucking cash from the market, and we want to see interest rates drop. And historically, that's when these riskier assets, including alts, that's when they pump. Alts tend to have kind of this cyclical nature within the Bitcoin cycles, and so does ETH. But ETH has been underperforming for the longest time, even compared to other altcoins, right? In contrast to that, when Bitcoin was in the bear market, right, it was actually outperforming Bitcoin for parts, or at least going sideways for most of it until it finally started going down consistently.
Okay.
And with that narrative, right, the other thing I want to show here is the Bitcoin dominance. The Bitcoin dominance takes the overall total market cap of the entire crypto market and then gets the Bitcoin market cap as the numerator to get this percentage. And this happens every cycle where, as part of the bear market, right, we see this gradual increase, right? And then we see a huge drop. what happens on the huge drop? On the huge drop, that's basically when the alt season mania phase, absolute just crazy. News are talking about it. Fart coins going 10x in a week. You know, that's when all this happens. And that, if you notice, this is relatively short. And this is when we have our peak. We haven't had that yet. We've had this increase, gradual increase over time, over the, you know, since the bottom of the bull market, or the bottom of the bear market. But we haven't seen that drop. I think recently what we saw was a fake out to the downside, right? Because we were on this trend line for the longest time consistently. Then we hit this top, and we break the trend line. It's like everybody's like, oh, we're gonna keep going down. This alt season. This is what happened basically in early January, December timeframe, right? But then it reversed. We had a bounce here, and people, no, and that's his dead cat bounce. But we came back up here, right? In basically last week. Actually, it's this week technically still, because we haven't closed. So I don't know how much higher this will be, but I do think that it is close to the top. So again, it's not a bad time to be accumulating alts.
Okay. So right, yeah, because you're still well. What are the coins that you're paying attention to right now? So if you had to like draw up a little wallet of you know, maybe help the viewer think of a watch list to set up. What are the the top 5 coins that you're paying attention to? So we know Bitcoin and Ethereum are up top, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It also depends on the risk profile. Different people have different risk profiles, but I think for kind of like a medium average and risk profile, you do one at this point. You probably want at least 50% in Bitcoin. You can have a good 30% into Ethereum, and then the 20% you can have other coins. The other coin I like a lot is Solana, obviously. Solana has been just outperforming almost everything this cycle. I mean, it bottomed at what? At like $7 over here. What? It was, yeah, $12. Right now it's 197. That's a huge increase, right? I mean, and it's down from 280. So that's a good deal already, right? And when you look at it and you zoom out a little bit, you see its trend. It's still following that trend. It's just very volatile. So people get emotional and see it crash 50% and think, oh my God, it's all over, right? From its peak, it's down, what, 30%, 31%. But to me, I look at this chart and it's basically retesting this previous resistance, right? Hit here, came back down, consolidated, broke it again, came back down.
The technicals are very solid.
Yeah, even the moving averages, right? The wick test, this one, I believe this one might be the 200. Let me take a quick look at that. Or this is 50, right? The wick tests the 50, but the body of the candle tends to stick around this one, which is the 20. In this case, the 20-week moving average. So I think it looks good. It's a good opportunity. When we look at Sol BTC.
That's the one I was going to ask you. But interestingly enough, you play Solana, you're playing the bulk of meme coins right now. You're playing the fart coins, you're playing the Pepe coins, you're playing the bulk of them.
Yeah. Well, we'll go through those, but Solana is, I think, I look at it as the bronze to Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So that's why I want to talk a bit more about this one. But, you know, Solana does follow a similar range, right? We saw the ETH Bitcoin graph where it had these cycles. So I take like Solana is a cycle behind Ethereum. We saw the same thing versus Bitcoin with Ethereum. That huge run up comes out, another peak over here, and then that consolidation. But Solana has been outperforming Bitcoin, and it has been in this consolidating range, right? But this right here, you have this previous resistance that has been acting as support in the past, right? So this might be a bottom of Solana versus Bitcoin. So again, this is a good place to buy, probabilistically speaking. And then you also have the technical showing the levels of support that it's likely to hold. The other thing with Solana is it's like all the meme coins, like you said, are on the Solana chain. Now, if I tell you, here's $1 million, you can either invest it in the casino that has an edge on all the players, right? Or you can go and place it on black at the roulette. Or it's 50-50 chance. You can double your money overnight, or you can lose it all. Or you can invest in the casino and get, I don't know, a 20-30% return, right? So from a risk perspective, you're still capturing all that meme coin mania, right? Because people need to buy Sol to buy the meme coins. And that's what has been pushing and has been supporting the price of Sol. But at the same time, you're not putting all your risk in one meme coin or a coin, right? That could go to zero or drop overnight 90%, right? But yeah, like you said, there's also, I like, I like Pepe. I like Doge Classic. Doge has these spikes, it kind of doesn't do anything for the longest time. And then it randomly spikes up for like 2-3 weeks. And you got to be ready for that and be able to take advantage of that. Some of the older ones I don't like as much, like ADA, Matic. They're there's their relics, just old school kind of dinosaur coins. And what happened with those is that it has a lot of bag holders. So when price does increase a little bit, a lot of people that have been holding it for years, they're quick to sell that because they're just done with it. It's like there's no hype behind this. It's okay, I'm out. I just want to recover my initial money. I'm happy, right? But there's a lot of projects out there. I think too many to go over them. But I think the trend this cycle is meme coins. They've been doing well, and also AI coins.
Yeah.
AI coins. I have one of my friends from the Market Boss podcast. She's a little bit of a crypto degen, and she's all into the AI coins. Like she's loving the AI coins. She's like, if you're not in them, you're gonna miss the next euphoria.
It's true. That's why it's a good idea to put an amount of money that you're okay with losing just as a lottery ticket. But it's that you shouldn't be allocating money that if you see it drop 50%, you're freaking out, because that means you're not managing your risk effectively.
Yeah, instead of going to dinner, buy some Pepe. It's like, there you go. And then maybe you can buy 5 dinners or 20 dinners. And I hope you do. I hope you do. Okay, cool. Anything else? I think we've touched on a bunch of points, so it's like, I think that the final thoughts on this is pretty much, okay, we're still within a good range. Market, yeah, it's consolidating, and we're at levels that are what we could call consolidating, market's consolidating, waiting for that next catalyst, next part of the euphoria cycle that's going to actually ride Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all of the alts up, and I think people have to take into consideration that the market doesn't just go up. It has its cycles. It has this like trends where you can come in and take advantage of selling the profits, taking some money off the table and wanting to redeploy those assets or that capital in further things, and then take advantage of the cycles. It's like, pay attention, like start getting, not only listen to what we say, but come up with your own ideas and your own trends and what you see in the markets, and slowly start implementing those within your portfolios. And yeah, diversify. Don't go all in just one cryptocurrency. Is never good. If you want to last a long time, break it down. Very similar. Like I like the breakdown of your portfolio, like 30% long term, 40% active, and then that gives me what, to another 20% to
It's a good mix, and obviously, different people with across different ages or different mentalities, they have different risk profiles, right? If you're 18 years old and you got, I don't know, a few $100s for your birthday, I mean, I might just put it into Fartcoin, and once I double or triple that money, take out my initial investment and let the rest increase, right? Because you have all of your 20s to try to make that money back. It's a low investment type thing, right? But if you're somebody in your mid 30s, 40s, right, and you have a good amount of capital, you don't want to put all that capital into a meme coin that's got to lose it, 50% value overnight. So it's a matter of how risk averse you are, and if you're in the wealth creation or wealth preservation phase of your life as well.
Yeah, it's the truth. Sometimes $1,000, like let's say this one hits 100x, $1,000 will get you to what? 100x on that is how much? 100K? It's
Exactly.
like allow yourself, like put small position and whatever. Like that's one thing. It's very personal. You have to understand what you're willing to risk, and understand that if you're not sleeping properly, you're maybe badly allocated. It's like, because
Yeah.
my father.
If you get emotional on these movements, that means you have too much in. Like some of my alts, they're down 30, 40, 50%. I'm not sweating it. I don't even care to check, right? I know they're just consolidating. When I bought them, I was ready to stomach that decline down 50, even more, right? It's not a huge percentage of my portfolio, and I already knew that was a possibility, right? It doesn't feel great that they're down, but I'm not sweating it, and I'm still holding most of them. Now, I will say, when you play meme coins, right, that's a whole nother skill than trading, because you basically need to be sniping things at low value and then be monitoring them once they go up to take those profits. I don't know if you want to talk a bit about what happened with Trump coin, but that's
We can. You
great
want to
example.
talk about Trump coin?
Yeah,
I'm down.
That was like
That was amazing.
Well, that was one of the easiest plays you could have in all of crypto, I think, because it was so obvious, right? And obviously, it's a lot of people who support Trump that maybe have never been part of the cryptocurrency community, and the fact that Trump set it up so they're able to buy it via credit card or a debit card. So that's fresh, new capital coming into the crypto market, right? But you could have bought, if you were paying attention, you could have bought at $8, $10 when it first hit. I think it was $70. I got in late. I got in the next morning, and I saw it when I first opened up my app and started looking at the news and all that. I think I saw like around $24. And then I slept for another like 10, 15 minutes. I came back to it, and it was like at 35. It's like, what? Okay, I need to buy this thing, but I'm going to wait until there's like a little bit of a drop. So I think I got in around $27, $28. And then once it hit 70, I think it took almost like 60% profits of that. I saw it come back down to like 30, and then it bounced back up to 50. I was like, okay, I'm out. I sold like almost all of it. I think I left 10% of my initial buy in there. And then after, I was waiting for I was waiting. I think it was the inauguration. I had that small amount there just to wait for the inauguration. But after that happened and it didn't go anywhere, I just sold it. I think I still sold it in profit. I think I sold it around like 29. So even when I sold everything, I sold with a profit. But yeah, it's a good example of a pump and dump. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I used to hate
it's an example.
Yeah, if there's an opportunity for you to make money, why not say it?
Yeah, no, it's the truth. And like and the thing is it takes time. It takes time, because a lot of people are coming into this and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to hold Trump coin until he leaves office. And that's going to be great. And all of a sudden it's like, bro, if you're buying Solana with a credit, like if you're buying Trump coin with a credit card, you're not making any money. Like you're not. It's just not. It's like, because you got to understand the cycles. You got to see this time and time again, right? Like when I first started trading, I would look at just like economic data come out, and I would just look at how the market reacted. Nowadays, I'm willing to put in $10,000 on a trade, and say, okay, like I'm willing to go down, maybe 3K if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. My research tells me. But after my research tells me, it's like you first got to do the research, analyze, and do everything. And sometimes it's paying attention to meme coins like this, seeing what happens in the past, and then see how you can take advantage. Oh, yeah. we hit a peak. Oh, we came down. There's going to be another peak, and then we're going to dump the usual bubble cycle and take advantage of it, But it comes with the learning. And a lot of people also, one thing that I wanted to mention was that a lot of people don't like the risk-free trades. You know what I mean? Like if you're up 100%, sell 50% of the position, you've taken your capital out, the capital remained there, it's free money. You're able to, if it goes 100x, fantastic. And if it goes to 0, fantastic. You're pretty much risking money for free when you make this, right? Like I do that with options a lot. I like
play with house money.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's like, I hope it grows to the 100K, but it's like, I'm okay if it drops 50 because I'm already in profit. I've already capitalized my trade. I'm already looking for the next one.
Yeah. But it comes, it's new people that use emotion too much to trade. Right. And I'm guilty of that. Even to this day, that still happens to me sometimes where I see this and it's going up with, I think with MicroStrategy. That happened to me because I saw it. I saw when it went to like 520, my gut was telling me sell. I sold a little bit, but I didn't sell a good, big enough portion of it. So I saw it go all the way down to like the 400 levels. Eventually I did sell in the mid 400s, right? So I still took profit, but when you have that feeling, it's like, oh, should I sell? Yes, that's when you need to sell at least your initial portion, if not more. That is your brain telling you, no, this is going to keep going up when it probably has run its course for the most part.
Yeah. Usually it's the oh, I wish I had bought more. Whenever that thought comes into my head nowadays, it's the biggest red flag. It's like, oh,
that's a top signal.
I bought and turn. I'm happy with it. Like why am I upset at the fact that I'm making money? That it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, like, I no way, I need to sell. And all of a sudden, you get rid of the position and you buy in cheaper.
Yeah. When you start thinking, I should get a loan to buy more, that's when you should sell.
That's the top. Should I talk to the bank about the mortgage?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, awesome, man. I appreciate the talk. We've been going for almost an hour. Like I want to break this down into 3 episodes, make sure everybody watch. I'll post all of it and then break it down. It's like I think we did like 3 good segments. It was like Bitcoin, Ethereum. If people want to follow you, where can they follow you? Am I gonna post? Am I allowed to? By the way, I was supposed to ask you on the stream. Am I allowed to post the Telegram?
Yeah, absolutely. Join the Telegram. It's a crypto net worth. Good conversations there, not just about crypto, but about markets in general, macroeconomics, news, events, anything that influences market. We talk about there. Also some trade opportunities that we share. So good resource there. You can follow me on Instagram as well, Larreal. And I'm gonna plug my music as well. You can follow me, Ferrex Music. I'm also a DJ. So you can scan this QR code and follow me.
Nice.
But yeah, no, this has been great. Very fun. I love talking about this kind of stuff. I love expressing my thoughts, my ideas on what's going on in the market and sharing that. If it helps people, great. But it's more about, putting it on tape as well and seeing if I'm wrong or right. And
taking your receipts. Taking the receipts.
You got to print the receipts. Yeah. But yeah, happy to do another one. Maybe we'll start talking about options in the next episode.
I want to do options for sure. I want to do options. Yeah. Options it's a great way. It's a great way to generate cash flow. The truth. All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Peace out.